Okay, this is my audience for my informative speech.
Wait a minute.
When someone gives an informative speech, oftentimes it consists of statistics, facts, and a bunch of boring information that goes in one ear and out the other. Now, I can't promise you that I don't have one or two statistics and a couple of random facts, but I went on a trip to Kenya about a year and a half ago, and it changed my life. And so today I want to talk to you about what I learned from studying and what I learned firsthand about what it means to be a Christian in Kenya. Christianity has become a major religion and is still spreading, even through the sacrifices the Kenyan people make, such as praying at any time, going to church anywhere, even through the lack of resources that they have, that us as Americans consider necessary, and even enduring religious persecution, even through their own families. Now, before we dive into the ways that Christian Kenyans express their faith, I think it's important to look at the history of religion in Kenya from past to present. According to the Kenyan religion from inholes.com, Christianity has been the main religion in Kenya since the 19th century and is still spreading today. And this is mainly due towards missionaries in Kenya. And then by the 20th century, Islam was losing its momentum it had in centuries past, again due to Christianity spreading and missionaries. Kevin Shillington in the Encyclopedia of African History says that the key to advancement of Christianity was education. So they began starting schools to convert the children. And I actually have a picture of me when I was in Kenya teaching a high school group of students who are Muslim at a Christian school. And that's still primarily how they try to convert people who are Muslims. And I interviewed Chris Exley, a missionary in Kenya who I've known for a long time, and he informed me that some of the reasons that Christians are still spreading is because of churches being planted that have never been there before. Christianity will continue to grow, but so will Islam, and this is because Muslims are taking over a lot of the cities there and providing people with basic needs who have nothing. So those people are converting to Islam. In Kenya, it's rare to find someone who does not affiliate themselves with a religion. As of a recent study from Worldmark Encyclopedia of the Nations, about 66% of the population is Christian, 28% of that being Catholic, and 38% Protestant. The rest of the population consists of Muslims and tribal religionists. But when I was there in Nairobi, it was either you were a Christian or you were a Muslim. And in the Nairobi area, that's normally how it is. So now that we have some basic knowledge about religion in Kenya, let's take a look at the specific ways the Kenyan people show their faith in contrast to what we do. In Kenya, the way they do prayer and church services is very different from our culture. Chris says that most, if not all, churches will at least spend one night a month and some one night a week in all-night prayer. Most wake up at 4 in the morning and pray, go to prayer meetings or pray on their own, and I know that's true because when I was there, that's what they did. So most Kenyans are more dedicated to their faith and rely more on prayer than a typical American Christian, says Chris. Also, their services do not consist of the resources that we have. They don't have huge churches and cool lighting and big buildings and fancy stuff. Most of their churches, if they're not in a small, crazy little church, then they're in a tent, a big tent. And that's how I have a picture of us in a tent in one of the churches inside of Nairobi, one of that churches. I'm making a really strange face there, but that's okay. They have more freedom in their services also because they don't live as rushed and worried lifestyles as we do. The time of their services are much longer. They might start an hour later than advertised, which would never in a million years happen here. And they spend about 45 minutes to 60 minutes in worship alone. So you could say that they truly live Hakuna Matata lifestyles. They're worry-free. But one thing that is not so worry-free there is something that is really, it strikes me a lot because I experienced it When I was in Kenya, one of the days we had off, we were just kind of sitting by the river, and this man came up to us. His name was Abdul, and we were just sitting by the river. He didn't speak much English. In fact, like barely any at all. And so we were kind of like, you know, why are you here? Why are you talking to us? It's kind of awkward. And to make a long story short, we ended up being able to ask him, are you a Muslim? Do you go to a mosque? And right then and there, he looked around to see if there was anyone around, and he pulled out a piece of paper, and he wrote with incorrect spelling, Christian, and he showed it to us. And at that moment, tears just came to my eyes because, you know, he couldn't even say the word out loud. He had no freedom because he didn't know what would happen to him if someone found out. And, you know, he just wanted to be around people who believed the same thing as him for once. And so, despite the population of Christians in Kenya, many people are facing devastating persecution, especially if they were Islam converting to Christianity. But even under that persecution and unacceptance they face, they live boldly for God, risking their friends, their family, and in some cases their lives. According to Noel Mkwagu from BBC News, there are dozens of Somalis living in Nairobi who have converted from Islam to Christianity, but they live in constant fear of persecution. They suffer from their families and friends being so upset at them for switching religions. They suffer from physical beatings, and in some cases they get their children and wives taken from them. I can't even imagine. But despite these hardships, despite all of that stuff, this group of Christians say that their numbers are growing. Chris Exley says that they stay strong by believing that God will take care of them no matter what. They truly have a relationship with Him, knowing that if they do die, new life will come based upon their death. And that's represented here in John 12:24. It says, "Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." So they lose their life knowing that other people will have eternal life because of it. And now I'm not saying all this so that we can feel bad about what we have or, you know, feel bad about what we don't have to go through. And it's not a persuasive speech about how we should have our church in tents. But it's just encouraging and interesting to learn about another culture and how they express their beliefs. So I hope you guys learn more about what it means to be a Christian in Kenya. Thank you.